Regarding guarantees, did you get clarity on what the US is ready to offer? Have they endorsed the plan, or has the issue faded?
Look, we truly had a meeting. It lasted approximately 1 hour, and we did not manage to cover everything. And why? Because we spoke extensively about weaponry, both the diplomatic track and military support. There were many topics. We discussed 4 or 5 key agreements. We have a clear and general understanding of how security guarantees should function, as well as the important fact that we need to establish a comprehensive bilateral agreement with the United States of America. We want a bilateral agreement that is legally binding, ratified by the United States Congress and, accordingly, by our own Parliament. Yes, this is what we need. Next, we discussed the agreement I previously mentioned regarding weaponry. We also discussed the agreement I referred to concerning drones. We discussed the implementation of the mineral deal, and we began discussions on a free trade agreement. It is a very complex matter, yes, but any path must begin if you intend to walk it.
Now, Moldova. Elections will be held tomorrow.
I believe Europe is at risk. We cannot simply say this is an internal matter for Moldova. Moldova is a future member of the European Union. Its territory lies on the border. It shares borders with European countries, and the Russians are very eager to exert influence over Moldova. How do they exert influence? It all begins with politics. You know this. If there are loyal parties, we have seen this before. If loyal parties successfully enter parliament, the next logical step will be to form a loyal and stable government, and ultimately to install a president who is equally committed and loyal. After that, military presence follows. This is essentially the direction in which the Russian Federation operates. That is why I firmly believe that today the pro-European, and above all pro-Moldovan, President Sandu, who treats Ukraine with genuine friendship and deep respect, and who consistently upholds and defends Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, is an extremely important figure. We share borders, and this matters to us. I believe it matters to Europe, and I believe it matters to Moldova. If there is a shift in parliament, other changes may follow. That is what I am talking about. Where are the risks? The risks are shared by all. Transnistria today, and the individuals in leadership positions in that territory which no one recognizes as a country, as it is an occupied part of Moldova, those individuals remain quiet. They remain quiet because they fear us deeply. They fear no one else but us. From the very beginning of the war, they have received clear and unmistakable signals from us. There were a few shots fired from that territory, yes, at the start of the war. They received a strong warning from us, personally from me, and that is why they remain quiet. They are quiet because, on the other side, there is Moldova. Today, Moldova has a pro-European president. But if Moldova's political direction shifts from pro-European to pro-Russian, then those individuals who are currently quiet may become vocal, because there are several thousand Russian troops stationed there. Whether we like it or not, that is a fact.
Washington Post, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to clarify, do you think President Trump's tone changed because of you? Is it possible that you achieved this shift during your meeting with him? And did he speak about a special operation? Or did you share details of a special operation you intend to carry out?
What special operation? What are you referring to?
Did you tell him about specific operations or speak more generally? Did you share details about your goals and plans? What changed his perception of Ukraine's capabilities? because his tone has changed dramatically.
Indeed, I shared with him a certain vision. That is true. I spoke about the realities on the battlefield and about what could potentially happen. I believe there is an impact on Russia, and we should not expect soft gestures from Russia toward Ukraine. Accordingly, Ukraine must respond with appropriate actions toward Russia. We should not be afraid of this. And we should not be overly cautious in our rhetoric when Russians issue threats. I believe that civilized nations should adopt the same tone. To remain civilized when facing those who act in an uncivilized manner, in my view, is a significant mistake, both in terms of rhetoric and in the concrete, substantive actions that must be taken. As for the battlefield and even deeper into the territory of the Russian Federation, if Russia sets the deliberate goal of creating a complete blackout in Ukraine, a goal it pursues every single winter, I am not convinced that our response, nor the response of our partners, should be any different or any less decisive. Russia must clearly and unequivocally understand that civilized countries fundamentally differ from barbaric ones in that they never initiate acts of aggression and never strike first under any circumstances. But that does not mean they are weak. And weakness must not be shown. If they threaten a blackout, for example, in the capital of Ukraine, then the Kremlin must know that there will be a blackout in the capital of Russia. That is, briefly, about some of the points we discussed with the president. There are details about what is happening on our battlefield. There are many different aspects. There are programs used by United States intelligence, including systems also used by our military, such as Delta, for example. Let me give you an example. The Delta program records where the enemy has entered. It does not specify that a sabotage and reconnaissance group has entered. It does not say that these soldiers entered and were later eliminated. It simply marks the location they entered. And immediately, there is a perception that the area is occupied. But it is not occupied. This is the nature of war, unfortunately. People entered, perhaps 3 to 5 individuals, and by evening they were already eliminated. But in the United States of America, by that same evening, President Trump has shown that another village in Ukraine has been occupied. That is how it happens. I simply want to explain how this works. By the way, this is not unique to him. It happens with other European leaders and even within our own society. People see a map shaded in a certain color and assume that area is occupied. But it is not. There is enemy presence, and that presence will be eliminated. Our soldiers will reclaim those positions. It is important to understand that this is not an advantage, as the Russians portray it to their own population and abroad. No, it is not even a success. These are temporary forces. Temporary, because their time will certainly run out once the armed forces of Ukraine take the necessary steps. These are just some of the nuances. I gave you one example involving programs and data. There are many such nuances. Addressing them requires not just minutes or hours, but several meetings. And I hold these meetings with leaders, including the President of the United States of America. Today, I strongly and firmly believe that this is one of the most important reasons behind the noticeable and significant shift in rhetoric. A deepening distrust toward President Putin, a much clearer and more realistic understanding of the harsh realities on the battlefield, a strengthened and more determined belief in Ukraine's cause, and the Russians' persistent and blatant disrespect toward everyone, including the President of the United States of America himself.